The warm glow of the morning sun peeks through the windows. But for little Amara, the day begins with the cold clang of a mop bucket. Only 8 years old, her tiny hands scrub the floors while her stepmother, Linda, lounges on the couch, scrolling through her phone. Faster, Linda snaps without even looking up. Amara bites her lip, holding back tears, her small body aching from hours of chores. Since her mother passed away, home has felt more like a prison, and the woman who promised to care for her has turned into a cruel shadow over her childhood. Amara's father, David, works long hours to provide for his family, believing his little girl is safe and loved. He trusts Linda. How could he not? She always puts on a warm, caring face when he's around. But the moment he leaves, her mask slips, and the house becomes a battlefield where only Amara suffers. Laundry, dishes, sweeping, endless tasks fall on the child's shoulders, while Linda enjoys the comforts of a life built on David's hard work and Amara's silent suffering. But Amara never loses hope. She dreams of the day her father will see the truth, of the moment he will hold her and say, "I'm here for you." She leaves tiny clues, hoping he will notice. The bruises on her knees from scrubbing floors, the sadness in her eyes when he asks about her day. But each time, Linda's lies cover up the truth, and Amara's voice remains unheard. Until one evening, David comes home early. Unexpected, silent, and just in time to witness something that freezes him in place. His heart pounds as he sees Amara, exhausted and trembling, wiping the floor while Linda scolds her harshly. The air thickens with tension, and David's heart begins to shatter piece by piece. What he does next will change everything. Will he confront the darkness hidden within his own home, or will the truth push his family past the point of no return? Stay with us as the story unfolds, and the line between love, betrayal, and justice is tested in ways no one could have imagined. David's heart pounds in his chest, his knuckles tightening as he watches the scene unfold. His mind races. How long has this been happening under his roof? He wants to rush in, to stop it, but something holds him back. He needs answers. Slowly, he steps back into the shadows, his stomach churning with guilt for not seeing the signs sooner. Later that night, the house falls into a heavy silence, but David can't sleep. His thoughts are a whirlwind, replaying every little moment he had brushed off, the times Amara seemed distant, the hesitation in her voice when he asked about Linda. He remembers how Linda always had an excuse ready. She's just adjusting, or you know how kids can be. But now those excuses feel like lies. The next morning, David decides to stay home from work without telling Linda. He hides his car down the street and watches from the window. Amara, already up before the sun, is sweeping the hallway while Linda scrolls through her phone, ignoring the child completely. Minutes later, Linda calls out sharply, "You missed a spot." "Do it again." David's jaw tightens, his fists clenched. He can hear the exhaustion in Amara's voice as she softly replies, "Yes, ma'am." But David also notices something else, the way Amara's eyes dart toward the window, as if hoping someone will see her. She isn't just afraid, she's waiting to be saved. His heart breaks, but he knows he needs to understand everything before confronting Linda. So he starts asking questions, carefully, subtly. He talks to neighbors and Amara's teacher. The stories begin to line up. Amara's sudden drop in energy at school, her hesitation to join activities, and her worn-out clothes. The pieces of the puzzle are falling into place, and the image is darker than he ever imagined. Yet something still feels off. Linda's behavior isn't just cruel, it's calculated. But why? Is there something more she's hiding? As David digs deeper, he discovers a hidden truth that shakes him to his core. The truth is coming to light. But is David ready for what he's about to uncover? As days pass, David's every interaction with Linda feels heavier, his words careful, his eyes always searching for cracks in her false smile. Linda, oblivious to his growing suspicions, continues her charade, warm and affectionate whenever he's near, but David senses the shift beneath her sweet tone. Amara, on the other hand, grows quieter, her shoulders always tense, as if waiting for something to fall apart. One evening, David decides to test Linda. You know, Amara's been looking tired lately. Maybe we should ease up on her chores, he says casually, watching her reaction closely. Linda barely pauses, her voice smooth but cold beneath the surface. She needs discipline. It's good for her, she replies, brushing off his concern. David's stomach twists. It's not what she says, it's how easily she says it, without a second thought for Amara's well-being. Meanwhile, Amara finds a small moment of comfort at school with her teacher, Miss Carter, the only adult who seems to notice her pain. You can always talk to me, Miss Carter tells her softly one afternoon. Amara wants to speak, to let it all pour out, but fear holds her back. What if telling the truth only makes things worse? That night, David finds something unexpected. A crumpled drawing hidden beneath Amara's bed. It's simple but haunting. A small girl, a towering figure with angry eyes, and a broken heart between them. His chest tightens, a cold wave of guilt crashing over him. His daughter has been crying for help in silence, and he's only just hearing her. But the deeper David looks, the more unsettling things become. He stumbles upon strange receipts, luxury items he never saw, large withdrawals from their joint account. Linda has been spending, but on what? And why this secrecy? The tension thickens when Linda's mood shifts suddenly. She grows restless, snapping more easily at Amara, and David catches glimpses of panic in her eyes. She's hiding something, something bigger than cruelty. David's heart pounds with one question. What if Amara isn't the only victim of Linda's lies? And how far has she already gone to keep the truth buried? The house feels colder now, every room thick with unspoken tension. David's sleepless nights blur together as he pieces through every unsettling detail. Linda's lies, Amara's silent pain, and the unexplained money draining from their account. He knows something is coming, something dark just beneath the surface, and he's running out of time to stop it. That morning, David's phone buzzes with an unexpected call. It's Miss Carter, Amara's teacher. Her voice is careful but concerned. Mr. Reed, Amara seemed especially withdrawn today. She had bruises on her arm. She wouldn't say how, but I thought you should know. The world tilts beneath David's feet. His grip on the phone tightens, and his voice drops. Thank you. I'll handle it. But inside, his heart is breaking. When he confronts Amara that evening, her lips tremble, but she says nothing, just stares at him with those wide, frightened eyes. David kneels beside her, his voice soft but urgent. Sweetheart, you can tell me. You're safe. She hesitates, her tiny hands twisting in her lap. Finally, she whispers, I didn't mean to make her mad. The words hit him like a hammer. Before David can say more, the front door slams. Linda is home. Her eyes flick between them, her expression darkening. What's going on? She asks, her voice sharp, her smile thin. David straightens, his jaw clenched. We need to talk. Now. But Linda's phone buzzes, and for a split second, David sees panic flash across her face. She quickly turns it off, but it's too late. David notices a name on the screen. Asterisk loan officer asterisk, his blood runs cold. The receipts, the withdrawals, the secrecy, it wasn't just spending. She was drowning in debt. Suddenly, Linda's charm cracks, her voice tight and defensive. You have no idea what I've been dealing with, she snaps. Everything I've done. Her voice cuts off, and David's stomach drops. "What have you done, Linda?" he demands, his voice low and shaking. The air between them is electric, thick with the weight of everything unsaid. And then a sudden crash from Amara's room. David's heart stops. Something's not right. Without thinking, he bolts toward the sound, dread pounding in his chest. Whatever truth he's about to find, it's here, and it's worse than he imagined. David bursts into Amara's room, his heart racing, only to find the window wide open and the curtains whipping in the cold night air. His pulse spikes. Amara is gone. His eyes dart around, but there's no sign of her. Behind him, Linda appears, her face pale but guarded. "Where is she?" David demands, his voice sharp with fear. But Linda's silence, the flicker of something in her eyes, guilt, maybe, tells him everything. What did you do?" He growls, his fists clenched. Linda's voice trembles. I didn't mean for this to happen. I was trying to fix things." Her phone, still gripped tightly, suddenly rings again. The same number flashes across the screen. David snatches it from her hand and answers, his voice rough. "Where is my daughter?" A cold, unfamiliar voice replies, "I think we have something that belongs to you." David's chest tightens. "If you hurt her," but the line goes dead. His hands shake, but he refuses to let fear take over. He whirls on Linda, his voice low and burning. "What have you done?" Linda's voice cracks. "I borrowed money. I was desperate. They said if I didn't pay." Her knees weaken as the weight of her choices crashes down. "I thought they were just threats. I didn't know they'd take her." The room is thick with tension, but David has no time for anger. "We're getting her back," he says, his voice like steel. Minutes later, a text pings on Linda's phone. An address, no words. David doesn't hesitate. The drive is a blur, headlights slicing through the night. His knuckles are white on the wheel, his mind racing with what he'll find. As they reach an abandoned warehouse, David kills the engine. The building looms, cold and silent. He grips Linda's arm. "You stay behind me. If anything goes wrong, you run." But as they creep inside, a familiar voice cuts through the shadows. Amara, crying. David's chest tightens. "I'm here, sweetheart." He calls, his voice echoing. But then another voice. Calm, unfamiliar. "You shouldn't have come." And in the dim light, David freezes. Standing beside Amara is someone he never expected to see. The betrayal is like a knife to his chest. The danger is far from over, and now it's personal. David's breath catches as he steps forward, his eyes locking on the figure holding Amara. His heart pounds harder when the man turns, and disbelief washes over him. It's Eric, his old friend, someone he once trusted. "Eric, why?" David's voice is tight with confusion and rage. Eric's expression is cold, but there's something broken in his eyes. "I didn't want it to come to this," he says, his voice low. "But your wife, she crossed a line. She owed me, and I warned her." David's fists clench, his body trembling. "So you took my daughter. She has nothing to do with this." Eric's jaw tightens, but Amara's soft, scared voice breaks through the tension. "Daddy." Her eyes are wide, filled with tears. David's heart cracks, but his voice stays steady. "It's going to be okay, baby. I'm here." Suddenly, Linda steps out from behind David, her face pale but determined. "Eric, let her go. This is between you and me." Her voice shakes, but there's resolve behind it. "You're right. I made mistakes. But don't let my daughter pay for them." Eric's eyes flicker, his grip on Amara loosening for just a second. And that's when David moves. With a sudden, desperate lunge, he knocks Eric aside, sending them both crashing to the ground. The struggle is fierce, raw with anger and betrayal. But then, asterisk bang asterisk, the sharp crack of a gunshot freezes the room. David's heart stops, his eyes darting to Amara, safe. His gaze shifts, and there's Linda, the gun trembling in her hand. Eric staggers, clutching his arm, his face twisted in shock and pain. For a moment, everything is still, until the distant sound of sirens breaks the silence. Eric's voice, weak but laced with regret, reaches David's ears. I never wanted to hurt her. I just wanted what was owed. As police flood the room, David pulls Amara into his arms, his body shaking with relief. But before Eric is taken away, he says something that chills David's blood. Linda didn't tell you everything, did she? David's eyes snap to Linda, confusion and unease rising. And in her face, there's something he didn't see before. The nightmare is over. Or so he thought. The room falls into an eerie silence as Eric is led away, his final words hanging heavy in the air. David's eyes search Linda's face, confusion and hurt swirling inside him. What did he mean? He asks, his voice soft but edged with suspicion. Linda's lips tremble as she looks away, guilt flashing in her eyes. I was desperate, David, she finally says, her voice cracking. Eric helped me once, with money. I thought I could handle it, but when I couldn't pay him back, he started threatening me. I kept it from you because I was ashamed. David's shoulders slump, the weight of everything settling over him. You should have told me, he whispers, the pain in his voice unmistakable. We could have faced it together. Tears slip down Linda's cheeks. I was afraid of losing you, afraid of losing everything. A soft voice breaks through the tension. Mom? Dad? Amara's small hand reaches for them, her eyes filled with confusion, but also love. Can we go home now? David's heart melts, and he exchanges a look with Linda, one filled with sadness, but also understanding. Yes, sweetheart, he says, his voice gentle but firm. We're going home, and we're going to fix this, together. The days that follow are difficult but healing. Linda, determined to make amends, tells the police everything, and David stands by her side. Eric faces justice, but it's clear he, too, was a man broken by choices and desperation. In time, life settles. The house, once filled with tension, becomes warm with laughter again. Amara, once weighed down by sadness, blossoms with joy, knowing her family is whole. One evening, as the sun dips below the horizon, David watches Linda and Amara playing in the yard. The shadows of the past still linger, but they no longer define the future. He steps outside, joining them, his heart finally light. He knows their story isn't perfect. It's messy, raw, and real. But through every crack, love found a way to shine through. And that he realizes is the true happy ending.